Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Terumot. We're up to Perek Yud Aleph Mishna Zayin. Today's Mishnah should be Le'en Mishmat Neria ben Tzvitlana Aranbai ben Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Minuchatam beGan Eden Amen. The Mishnah says V'chen Chavit Shel Shemen Shenishpecha. And similarly, if a barrel full of Terumah oil spilled onto the ground, En Mechayvin Oto Liot Yoshev Umtapeach, we do not obligate the owner to sit and wipe up every last drop of spilled oil with his hand. Ela noheg bah kederch shu noheg bechulin. Rather, he treats it the same way that he treats chulin, oil that's spilled, meaning he must salvage whatever amount of oil he would have saved had the oil been chulin. And the Mefarshim explain, since people do not usually care to collect every last drop of oil, he may leave the last few drops on the ground. This is not considered destroying terumah. Now, the Mefarshim point out, allowing terumah to go to waste, even without actively destroying it, is included in the prohibition to destroy terumah. Therefore, the owner is not allowed to leave the oil on the ground. However, he is not required to do more than he would do for other food. And that is in Rabotai Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet continues, Ham'areh mikad b'chad. If a person pours wine or oil of terumah from one barrel to another, v'notef shalosh tipim, and after emptying the first barrel, he tips out 3 more drops, which the Rav explains, he poured out the liquid in a stream. After the stream finished, he tilted the barrel so that 3 more drops dripped out. However, a few more drops might still be left in the barrel. The Mishnah says, Noten letocha chulin. He may now put wine or oil of chulin into the empty barrel. Now, even if a few drops of terumah still remain in the barrel, a person is not required to wipe them out before refilling the barrel. And we're not concerned about the fact that now these drops will mix with the chulin, because they will be nullified by the majority of chulin liquid, and the whole barrel full will have the status of chulin. Now, we learned a little bit in Mishnah 6 in this chapter that it is forbidden to intentionally mix terumah with a larger amount of chulin in order to nullify the terumah. Here, though, a person is allowed to purposely fill the barrel with chulin, because once a barrel has been emptied to the point that 3 drops have dripped out, so little remains in the barrel that a person does not care about saving it. Therefore, it can be assumed when a person fills such a barrel with chulin, his intention is not to nullify the drops of terumah, which he doesn't care about, but simply to store his chulin. This is how the Tosfot Yom Tov explains it. The Mishnah continues to discuss now the status of the leftover terumah liquid in the barrel in a case where the barrel is not refilled with chulin. Hilkinah umitza, if a person tipped the nearly empty barrel so that the remaining drops of terumah collected at the bottom, harezu terumah, this liquid is terumah, because even though only a few drops of liquid remain in the barrel, those drops of terumah, if they are not nullified by the new chulin that you put inside, they maintain terumah status. And the Mefarshim explain that when the Mishnah says Hilkina umitza, a person tipped the empty barrel so that the drops collected on the bottom, this is simply an example of how one might collect the liquid from the barrel. The same would apply if you scrape the leftover terumah off the barrel walls. Now the Mefarshim say, emptying out the barrel until 3 drops drip out permits the owner to refill the barrel with chulin. However, the drops that remain in the barrel are still terumah. So if the barrel is not filled with chulin, they remain terumah, even though there are only a few drops. So few, even that the owner doesn't care about them, but they still remain terumah. Now the Mishnah continues to discuss a leniency that applies to small amount of terumat maaser of demai, which demai, a portion usually given to a kohen. We learned in Masechet Demai that demai is a contraction of the words damai. What is this produce? Because demai is produce obtained from an amaretz, an unlearned person who cannot be relied to tithe properly. The Chachamim, the sages, decreed that you have to separate tithes again from such produce because the amaretz might not have done so. Now, most of the portions separated from demai remain the property of the owner, because the poor person or whoever the case is comes to collect the levi, you could tell him, how do you know the amaretz didn't give it already? With the exception of terumat maaser, which is given to a kohen. So the Mishnah discusses now, how much is the minimum amount of terumat maaser of demai that a person is required to bring to a kohen? Echad mishmone lashminit, 1/8 of a log, which is 1/64 of a log. If a person has less than this amount, he does not have to bring it to a Kohen. And the Mefarshim explain, the Mishnah is referring to a case where the Terumat Ma'aser became Tameh, and therefore cannot be eaten by a Kohen. So since a Kohen cannot eat it anyways, and it's such a small amount, the rabbis did not require the owner to bring it to a Kohen. If, however, the Rav says that Terumat Ma'aser, that portion for the Kohen, is Tahor, you must bring it to the Kohen regardless of the amount. The whole Mishnah was talking about Tameh Terumat Ma'aser. In addition, the Mishnah's halacha applies only to Terumat Ma'aser of Demai, which is required to be separated only midrabanan, rabbinically. Ordinary Terumat Ma'aser, which is Terumat Ma'aser that was separated from produce, that definitely was not separated, it was not tithed, which one is Chayav Midoraita, biblically required to separate, one must bring even the smallest amount to a Kohen. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.